When I spent my life trying to get a good deal and chase sales, I actually spent way more money. Not only just the money on the little things adding up, but I would justify using a credit card that had high interest because the item was on sale, which makes zero sense. And also the time that I used to spend trying to find a good deal was wasted time. So in the end, you spend your time and you spend way more money, in my opinion, when you're always hunting for that bargain. And then it becomes a mindset where you're not willing to pay for what you want and you feel like you deserve a good deal. We end up negotiating our way through life, and then we end up justifying why we buy things, and so it's momentum going against us. It's basically like, well, this was a good deal, so I couldn't pass it up. So you still spent the money on something just because it was a good deal and you couldn't pass it up, even though you may not have even loved the item that you just bought. Or I would go into the thrift store, and I haven't thrifted in probably a decade, but when I used to, it was, you didn't really feel, well, in my opinion, I didn't feel like I won until I found an item, or until I left there with something of value. Like, whoa, you're not going to believe what I found. And I remember sending friends messages and sending pictures of like, oh, look at all these books I bought, and I got all this for $30. Well, I still spent $30 on a bunch of books that I probably wouldn't read or need, that just collected dust on a shelf. And it's like this lifestyle of trying to chase things and trying to get a good deal, and it still adds up. The time that you spend and the money that you spend is not being invested wisely. And what I had to do was really snap out of all of that. Like, I needed to change my whole life. I needed to disrupt my whole way of thinking and my whole habits, my patterns. And in order to do that, I had to get really honest with myself. And I know some of you have heard me talk about this, but I had to hit rock bottom and get honest with myself and realize I'm not going to live this way, and I'm not going to shop this way. And what happened was I realized I'm better than this, and I'm going to buy what I want, even if I need to wait to purchase that item. I'm going to allow myself to grow to the level of where that stuff that I want is on. I'm not going to live on this lower level of always finding a bargain and always needing a bargain, because then what happens is you're on that same frequency with that type of stuff. It's like you feel like this is what you're worth, so this is what you're going to buy. And I wanted my worth to be higher. So I knew I needed to raise myself up to get to a level to where I would say, could I spend that much on that one thing if I really love it? Well, if I didn't see myself as being value or deserving of that one item, I wouldn't do it. I would say, no way would I get that. I would look at the price tag and freak out. And this is a lesson that I want to teach my kids, and that I try to implement with them, is I want them to feel good in nicer clothes. And I want them to say, if they've got something that has a hole in it or they just don't feel good in, to not wear it. We get stuck on this thing where we have to wear the old clothes and we have to use up the old things before we can get out the nice things. And, that's such a terrible way of living. And I used to do that too. Like, we can't use the nice dishes or the nice silverware, only for my table displays, but you're not allowed to touch it. Like, how undeserving I would make my kids, my family feel. Oh, you don't use the nice linens and store them up for a special occasion. Well, I just blew a hole in that whole ideology and that whole way of thinking. I just was like, I'm not going to live this way. I'm going to use the nice things. I'm going to dress in the nicer clothes. And so what I had to do was get rid of all the stuff. All of the, like, in my closet, I had all of these things that I didn't really like, all that I kind of liked. These things were okay. These things, well, I didn't wear it enough to justify getting rid of it. I just got rid of it all. And what magically what happened was I was left with what I loved. I thought, wow, I've got all these shirts that I really love, but I never wear. I got these dresses that I love, but I never wear. Well, I got rid of all of the things that I felt ugly in, so now I can wear all the things that I feel good in. This isn't a knock on anybody if you're, a bargain shopper. Again, this is my story, my way of interpreting freedom and liberation from a cycle that I was in for a very long time. So I'm not against, finding a good deal. If you love something and it's on sale, that's a double win, obviously. But the goal is to not trade your time for those good deals. Like, life is so much more than that. It's so much more precious than that. And letting that control you and living around that is a waste of time. Not only that, most of the time if you buy something that you don't really like, chances are you're going to, one, return it, you're going to give it away, you're going to get rid of it, or you're not going to be satisfied for a very long time. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel like, oh, I just have too much stuff and I don't know where to start with removing what you don't really love anymore. Even if you loved it for a period of time, maybe it's not serving you anymore, maybe you don't need it anymore, maybe it's not your style anymore. Start by removing that and see what you have left. And maybe you have to do this process 3 or 4 times like I did. I would go through, okay, I knew I didn't like this stuff. I kind of like that, so I had like a maybe pile. And then I had to go through it 3 or 4 times, and this whole journey's taken me like a year to go through and to really feel like, okay, now I can see my style, and now I feel liberated, and now I'm not surrounded by clutter and stuff. I'm left with what I really love. So that is a great place to be, because then you're like, wow, I have all this time that now I can focus on other things. And those other things might include, time with your family, or taking care of your health, spending time with your spouse, reading the word, reading a good book, going for walks, like just living life. Even just if decorating is your thing, now you're not, it's not a chore. You're not in this anxious state where you're like, oh, there's too much stuff. Like, I'm very sensitive to my environment, so I get overloaded when there's too much. I don't like too much. I get kind of angry, and I get like, oh, get away from me. I can't focus. Don't talk to me. I need to clear the space. And I know a lot of you might be the same way, where you're very sensitive to your environment. So if you have too much and you open your drawers and your closets, and just different spaces you walk into, and there's too much going on, that is probably triggering a feeling that you're like, oh, I can't relax. There's too much happening in this one space. So remove the clutter, give yourself some space, slow down, intentionally shop. If there's something that you love, wait to buy it. You'll be more satisfied if you buy what you love. You'll keep it for a longer period of time. It'll be an investment instead of running after every little trend or every great deal, going in and out of the stores to return things. Organic modern living is all about simplified living. It's not in the sense of simplifying, going to move off the grid, and which is great, that type of life, but it's more of like that simple modern life where you're buying time. And if you've wasted years doing frivolous things, this is an opportunity for you to get that time back. You're literally buying the time back. You're not spending 10 hours shopping for the best deal. You're saying, this is what I love, this is what I'm going to buy, whether it's now or in 6 months, I'm going to buy it. Boom, done, move on. And you'll be surprised at how much time you gain, and how much better you feel, and how much your family might appreciate you, how much happier you're going to feel with yourself. This is all about embracing life, living to the fullest, having full vitality, and not wasting it on just, chasing trends and shopping, and I got to have this and I got to have that. It's about intentional living.